Jessica, such a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for reaching out actually last week. Really great timing because yeah, it's so nice to have this opportunity to have you part of the series.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I just thought I was like, who else needs to know about what's happening in retail? And that is very into this realm. So I thought of you instantly.
Thanks, appreciate that. Well, why don't we start here? If you don't mind giving your, let's give everybody just your introduction, give some context to your background and what it is you do professionally.
Yep. So I'm Jessica Ramirez, and I'm currently a retail research analyst for Jane Halley and Associates. So I've been working within the retail and fashion industry for the past, I'd say, a little bit over 10 years. And for the past 4 years as an analyst, what Jane Halley and Associates does is we advise Wall Street on what's going on with the consumer and in the retail market. So all the stocks that are consumer discretionary. And kind of what brought me to that as far as an expert was I've worked in trend and I've worked in retail. So really looking at how fashion trends translate and where they come from and how consumers dress the way they do today. We have these trends that the most common one that we've heard of athleisure and streetwear. So I think behind that becoming a trend, you have to understand what the consumer is going through and what that means. And obviously how are trends then translated by retailers and brands. And by understanding that is really how you understand what a retailer is going to be successful and what are the ones that aren't going to be successful. So again, trying to really get our clients to be ahead of the curve and understand where to put their money and make this kind of go round in the retail world.
And to give some deeper context to that, I mean, you're a research analyst. You're a research analyst for retail, which essentially your clients are including, when you say Wall Street, these are large bank institutions that are making bets on, financial scale for their clients or institutionally for themselves and their own portfolios. It could be research, it could be funds, it could be banks, it could be private, public traded companies, and you're aligning with their research teams to prime them on your specific niche, correct?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. Again, I don't necessarily come from a financial background. It is really understanding consumer and retail, and I think when you have the financial models that they have, numbers are one thing, and understanding the business in one way. But really, when you're looking at a Target or a Walmart, or you're looking at Nike, you're looking at Kohl's, it's understanding why that consumer is walking in there. They can have all these sort of numbers, but you kind of have to marry the reason as to why someone is successful. I think we had like a funny anecdote from a client recently, and he had said something about, well, why would beauty be booming in this climate right now if you were at home? And, we would kind of have to explain, well, you can't go to the salon, you can't go to the spa, you can't do these things. So you kind of have to bring them back in. So that's Sephora and Ulta and Sally Beauty kind of really understanding this and gaining traction through the consumer as you can order that digitally. And then there goes more into that. So again, it's kind of really bringing that and marrying it to the financial data and making that a smarter decision for our clients. And I think that's what they really like, is obviously currently we are not out in stores. Everything is closed and for safety reasons. But usually, we are in the store and checking that everything is doing well. We have people globally also analyzing that. So now it's kind of done digitally. So I think it's the fun part of the job.
Look, retail has been noted to be hardest hit, right? One of the first industries to really fold or have a huge folding under the stresses of the closed economy. Neiman Marcus yesterday announced that they are starting their bankruptcy proceedings, and you've had many already kind of go down that route over the last 6-8 weeks. How are you seeing, I guess, on your side, what are you seeing in your day-to-day in terms of your work that you're reporting on? Like, what are you seeing? What are you observing?
Well, I think when it first started, so I'll kind of backtrack to like January when China was the one who was really being hit. And I think what we started doing then as a precaution, obviously there's these brands and these retailers that are on a global scale that we track, and it's over like 50 of them. So at first it was really understanding, the ones that we've been positive on because they had growth acceleration in China, we had to kind of look back and be like, well, how much of that net business is being done in China? So that was the first aspect. And again, it was as it was starting to hit. So we really looked, okay, so how much percentage of business does Nike do there? How much does Tommy Hilfiger do? How is that going to be affected? Then you look at sourcing for that instance. As time quickly went by and, Europe started being hit, the US starts closing down, it started changing the model, the way we started looking at businesses. And really what we noticed, I think within the first week, was those businesses that we had already been praising for, adopting omni-channel, for adopting these trends and like mobile apps and Instagram and this new way of doing retail, we saw that they were doing excellent. They, kept it. And the ones that we've been wondering why they haven't adopted to the new retail world is clearly the ones that we've seen go under quite quickly. So I think from our end, what we're seeing is on all sort of trends, fashion and retail trends and consumer trends that we were looking at before that were extremely important. I'm talking about sustainability, I'm talking about streetwear, active, a healthier lifestyle, wellness, beauty, and home, just accelerate that much quicker. Again, it could have been towards the end of the year that we'd see some of this accelerate, but it really brought it in within weeks. So I think that's been what's been interesting, and also it's clearly upsetting just because of the amount of jobs that are lost. So also kind of minding what that consumer looks like and what the retail industry as a whole will look like further, as we already have examples from China come through and analyze what that means on another global scale.
Yeah, based on the reemerging of the economy in China, are there any early projections in terms of what we're going to experience here from the consumer mindset as we reopen?
I think it's as stores open, it is a trickle down. It's very slow. We've heard already from PVH, we've heard from Nike and from Levi. When they did open their stores, it was slow. It wasn't the traffic that they had obviously before, but it's slowly getting there as the consumer, I think, gets used to the new norm. Obviously, there's a lot of precautions, and as stores are opening, and the ones that did stay open, which were Walmart and Target, Home Depot, Best Buy, they stayed open with precautions. And as they continue to stay open, they also started altering to make the consumer feel safe and their employees safe. So I think that will continue to be a trend. And again, we saw that in China early on, and we're still seeing that today. So again, the very first thing as retailers look at, driving customers back, either digitally or in store, is being very mindful of what the consumer needs, not necessarily as a product that they might need, but what they need in order to feel safe. Yeah. And again, I think that's what will drive the consumer back, and having that almost like a comfort.
Yeah, earlier on the series, I was in discussion with Melissa Gonzalez, who's an pop-up strategist or architect for retail, and one area that she's seen innovate is the use of the parking lot as as actual space that can be facilitated to help a comfortable or drive a consumer experience.
Exactly. So I think what we were fascinated by, and there's a few examples that I think in the first week when we were watching just like these retailers communicate how they were communicating or how you could pick up items, and curbside is definitely here to stay. I think we saw that immediately. Before curbside, we obviously had buy online, pick up in store. And people were really adopting to that. If someone didn't adopt that as a retailer before, I'm not really sure why they didn't do that. It's kind of a very old school strategy now, if you look at it. But Walmart was able to do it, Target was able to do it, Best Buy, and Dick's as well. So they were able to keep their stores open to a capacity. When I'm talking about like Dick's and Best Buy, I think Sally Beauty also did. You're still able to use your store. That's another inventory. And again, I think that varied by state as well, where they were able to keep that open. But it's a different way of shopping. And it was a way to keep, your inventory moving, where I think a lot of these stores that were just shut, they didn't move. I was very surprised, and I kind of found it interesting. Coach last week announced they had their earnings, and they announced they were going to be doing curbside. And, I had never thought I would see someone picking up their handbag as curbside. Yeah. But, here we are today, and if that's just the new norm. And it's interesting to see, the ones that quickly turn that around. I think with home, within the first days of everything closing down, I found very interesting was like Williams-Sonoma, West Elm, I think Restoration Hardware. They immediately turned that around. They're like, we can help you with your home. We could FaceTime, we could Skype, we could Zoom. We can help you decorate. We can help you get ready to work from home. So I thought that was very clever because it was a turnaround of a stylist. And now we're seeing, like, I think Lululemon has it, Nordstrom has it, where you can speak to a stylist online, virtually. So people are adopting that very quickly. Again, it's a new norm, and it's keeping people on their feet.
What other areas of investment are you particularly excited about? Because this, I mean, this is clear that this is an acceleration of like how retail would have evolved eventually anyway, I feel.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more dramatic points on the sides, but when it comes to consumer comfort. However, I mean, when you're talking about the investment in digital or augmented reality or chat box and AI guided styling tips and things like that, where are you seeing kind of that acceleration, and where are you most excited about that?
Well, that's a good question. I think there's two parts to this, right? So there's what the consumer will be trending with in categories. So categories would be beauty, athleisure still, and now what we're looking at, home leisure as a phrase. Also,
Is that that's
athleisure. Sorry?
Home leisure is a phrase right now?
It's been out there. And so it just really looks at, and actually home leisure was sort of loungewear coming back slightly before, but again, acceleration, we're now at home. You want to be comfortable. Maybe you don't want to be in your PJs, as you know, you keep seeing all these memes and all these ideas of being like, you're more productive when you get out of your PJs and put something comfortable on. So you have the switch. So I think that's where home leisure is coming from. Also, I mean, I said home, obviously people are working from home. That includes kitchen, you're cooking more at home, a lot of do-it-yourself things. Beauty, as I started the call with earlier, that's become still a good category. I think skin will continue to be a good category. Color cosmetics have had some trouble in recent times. It may, it might better as people are wearing masks. Obviously lipsticks won't be a thing. Do you want to add more color to your eyes? So mascaras, eyeliners, eyeshadows, that could be something that might trend. Again, as the consumer goes back out, we'll see how they're adapting. So there are still some categories that are positive in our perspective. When it comes to strategy from the retailer, how they connect with the consumer, I'm excited to see this idea of live streaming. So I think in China, it came from first that we started hearing, having sort of like live streaming parties, or having the sales associate, you know, kind of have you tour through the store through live stream and sell that way. So I think these digital versions of selling product is very interesting. Again, engaging the consumer and kind of really building this relationship with them. On that same note, again, the retail industry is just like on a massive reset. And it's almost, it might be a silver lighting that we might need for this. And, you know, how do we manufacture goods? Obviously, a lot of these products that were already ordered, orders got canceled. So what we do hope to see is have more buy now, wear now. So that would mean you see coats when you need to see coats in that store, rather than a few months before. And that does a whole trickle of positive, because if you have inventory at the right time when that consumer is going to shop it, that's less markdowns, a more curated assortment, and less items going to waste. So I think, as everyone was talking about sustainability before all of this, the amount of waste that goes to this would be taken back. And again, I think items that, or strategies that consumers don't necessarily think about as much from the retail side, you know, again, talking to sustainability, when you do have stores that ship from their store, not necessarily a warehouse, the carbon footprint is much smaller. And I think as much as Amazon threatened so many of these businesses, they became innovative in that manner. So I think if you look at Walmart, if you look at Target, they can actually ship something to you much quicker than Amazon can. Target has 2 hours. I think the other day I had horrible allergies. My eyes were super swollen. And there wasn't any more Zyrtec, and I needed to change it out. And I had my items in 2 hours. Someone did shopping for me. So, I mean, those were ideas that were done before the pandemic, but now I think because consumers are shopping more virtually and finding these things, they're seeing that there's more out there and maybe sometimes quicker and more convenient. So there's different things that are very exciting to see now into play. Again, from consumer trends to retail trends to industry trends, and it is just a massive shift.
How are you seeing things? I guess we touched on this a lot. I'm trying to.
Sorry,
Okay,
that was a full mouthful.
yeah. I'll take a quick pause because it seems like we did do a lot of the future casting in there, so that's really good. Is there anything in your side that you think that we can further kind of unfold? Do we want to? Because I do want to keep it to like COVID and innovating as a result of COVID.
Yeah.
I think we hit it, to tell you the truth. Is there anything that do you want to elaborate further on kind of future impact or future forecasting?
Sure. I think people are interested in more so of all these businesses going down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I was reading the headlines today just because of the job unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
I do think there is new opportunities. It's just adjusting to the new world.
Okay, so let me ask about that. Let me ask about closures and where do you think that, where are we in terms of the cycle of closures and how that relates. Okay. Actually, I'll take a little bit of water too. So Jessica, of course, there's been a ton of closures, and the stress on the economy is not nearly at its peak or anywhere near alleviated. In fact, pundits are saying anywhere from a year to 10, 15 years till we could recover to where we were before. But kind of in its path, COVID has, of course, we mentioned Neiman Marcus and several other retailers that have recently announced bankruptcy, including, was it Williams Sonoma, right?
I know J. Crew.
J. Crew, Sur La Table. There's a bunch down the line. Where do you see? I'm gonna stop for a second. That was too long. Sorry. Okay. Jessica, like we've already experienced kind of an early wave of store closures and some really notable names declaring bankruptcy, including J. Crew and Neiman Marcus. Where are we in this cycle of retail closings, and what are your projections in terms of like what does that downstream effect look like?
I think we definitely are expecting more to announce store closures and bankruptcies. I think, as we said, everything's being accelerated. I think in the past 2 years, we've already had quite a lot of store closures, and people called it the retail kind of down. But in true lighting, it's accelerating the saturation that we've had. Retailers like Neiman Marcus and J. Crew had been having trouble for a long time. I think we're looking at Macy's and JCPenney also coming through, and they've had trouble for a long time. And a lot of that trouble comes from them not putting the consumer first, not listening to consumer trend. So I think those have all been self-inflicted problems. When you look at retailers that have been doing well in today's retail climate, I think they'll continue to succeed. Understanding that there is a lot of jobs being lost, unfortunately, through that. I think part of this entire reset, you have Walmart as well hiring so many people because they're also finding new ways of investing in their own and their own fleet. So there is a shift. And again, as we say, this reset, there will be new jobs, there'll be new things coming through. And it's unfortunate to say, if you did not get on trend with the retail landscape of what the consumer was asking for, we weren't consumer centric. Again, Neiman Marcus didn't. In the luxury sector, actually during this time, luxury is performing. And luxury changed. It became about streetwear. It became about these newer brands. It became much younger. And that younger consumer is the one shopping luxury. Neiman Marcus did not follow suit to that. They also didn't evolve their experience in store or online. So again, self-inflicted. But other ones are doing great. I think, you have online platforms doing very well. China also is stating how well Chanel and Hermes have lines down to their stores. So that's doing well.
Trying to think of, yeah. In terms of, I am fascinated with streetwear over, say, the last 5 years or so. And, now you, of course, have major acquisitions like, Stadium Goods and Goat, and, valuations for StockX in the billions. And, I'm wondering where you're seeing these online marketplaces perform today. Are you tracking that as well?
Yeah, so we are looking. There's been this whole idea that maybe sneakers aren't doing as well as they were. Even Vans, I think. Skate was, I think, one of the first part of the sneaker world that started being successful. The whole skater vibe really popped. And in part, it was due to the Olympics we're supposed to be having now, accepting skate as a sport, right? So we kind of have this whole boom going through, and it's become a little bit global. Last summer I was in London. I had never seen so many skaters in London, having lived there, like I did this last time I went. I was like, whoa. Mm-hmm. But, then you have Nike getting into skate. You had Adidas getting into skate. But before that, there was all like the sneakerhead, and that kind of, it had a vibe. It had the subculture was there, and it kind of boomed. And it might be generational as well. And again, I think that will still continue. It might change a little bit as the consumer gets to a new style maybe, but I think that idea will still remain in luxury. Again, some people can do an excellent job. I think online has the best because it gives you content, it gives you the curation, it gives you the lifestyle of what that is. And then you have people like StockX who also are trying to do a little bit. I think in New York you have the drop-offs now, and even that drop-off is an experience. So it taps into all of that. So I think those guys will continue to do well. It might be a bit of a slowdown as people are a little bit more cautious with what they're spending on. But if it's something worth it, I think also what we're finding with luxury is if it's an item that's worth as oil and gold go down, something you can invest in and then sell again, that's liquid for you. So that I think is the way you have to look at luxury and the resale business right now. If you are talking about having an Hermes bag, or if you're talking about having this collaboration that it might have been with Virgil and that's now worth over $1,000, what does that look like in your closet or in your bank?
Are companies like The RealReal or Poshmark and that kind of go along with that luxury consignment arena, are they seeing an uptick or?
So Real, not so much. Where we've actually seen the uptick and heard from the uptick. StockX, I heard, hasn't been affected. Sotheby's and that world, they obviously started getting into the sneaker business last year. And also they've been in the handbag business for a few years now, and they've been selling quite some, I don't have the figures on top, but they were quite some hefty numbers of bags being sold and sneakers being sold. And I think it was like in the past month. So I think that shows you, again, if it's something very unique, that could be, because we did hear from China that even though the luxury has, people are lining up, at Chanel, at Hermes and things like this, there's also the Chinese consumer who is selling their goods just to be safe, feel safe because of recession, right? So I think also China, you have to bear in mind that they might be hit in a second wave because all the manufacturing and sourcing and all that has been canceled for them. So that takes out a lot of the middle class. And obviously before this, China was kind of spending in that era. So there is still the fear. So it's a little bit twofold. It's some people are selling, some people are, it's a trade right now.
Yeah, I mean, like e-commerce surprisingly has been like just this kind of runaway Trojan horse for most retailers. And to be quite honest, I'm surprised that consumers are spending the way that they're spending still.
Yeah.
Do you see that? Do you see that shifting as we go a little bit further into this pause?
Yeah, I think digital e-com will continue to be important. All these years we've seen e-com to just grow and grow and grow. Um, for some retailers, it does make 30% of their overall. It's very few of them still. Some are still in like the 12% range of that's what the whole, we do expect this to just accelerate. We had expected 50-50, brick and mortar, 50%, e-com 50%. E-com will also include selling from your mobile app. Do you sell through Instagram? All these digital channels. So I think the comfort of your own home will continue to be important. So less having to touch things, less having to be out there.
Well, I'm almost coming from with that question from the capacity of people actually spending money. So forget about whether it's through e-com or physical. I mean, the fact that like, you know, people are still spending the way that they're spending. And are you anticipating a shift as we get these lagging economic indicators? You know, already 14% unemployment is a staggering number.
Yeah, I think it's kind of looking at the way a consumer, it's almost Maslow's theory. When you have everything you need, you have a home, you have food, you have everything, then you slowly start spending into things that make you feel nice, things that might help you get a job. All these, you start seeing into emotional buys. So I think little by little, that's where we're starting to see. And we looked at some stats from online sales, and in the first, like February, March, as things were closing down, e-com shot up within grocer, which hadn't happened before. And you know, everyone kind of bunkered down, we have everything. Then you saw people buying things for home office. Great, we're settled. We've got that done. Now, little by little, we're starting to see apparel shoot back up. Luxury has been up again, I think, part to the discounts and things like that. So people are still shopping. Again, when you're a consumer, and I think looking at it that way is once that consumer is safe and they have a little bit of a wiggle room, if it's available at that moment and it makes you feel good, people will shop.
Yeah. Well, Jessica Ramirez, thank you so much for your time and your insights today. We'll definitely be checking back in with you and hopefully be able to hang soon again. So
hopefully, thank you
yeah.
so much. It's always nice to use your space and
Yeah.
retail away.
Well, yeah, we'll chat soon. Talk soon. Cheers.
Thank